Welcome to Write with Love. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling author, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. Each week, I chat to passionate and inspiring authors about their journey in creative writing. Some are traditionally published, some do it themselves. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone has something interesting to say. We all love love and love what we do. Today's show is brought to you by our amazing fans and supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to help support the show and get some awesome bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author to learn more. Now here's today's show. G'day, I'm Sarah Williams. Thanks for joining me for episode 90 of Write with Love. I'm recording this on Friday 30th of August 2019. In July, I attended the Romance Writers of America National Conference in New York City. It was incredible. I sat in on some great workshops and listened to some very talented authors. I also had some networking events and meetings to attend, and I'm thrilled to say I have some big names agreed to come on the show. I'm setting up our chats, so you'll have to stay tuned for those. After that, my husband and I flew across to the UK, because really, when you've flown that far, what's a few more hours? Plus, our kids had a great sitter looking after them. We had a couple of days sightseeing in London, then it was off to Scotland, where we visited everything and anything to do with Harry Potter and Outlander. Yes, we saw Lallybroch and Castle Leoch. Check out my social media for lots of photos, including me trying to get through the standing stones. Of course, we also visited Culloden, which was emotional for me, as my ancestors fought there and I saw the exact spot where they fell. Of course, it wasn't all fun. We actually did a heck of a lot of research while in Scotland. I've had a historical saga brewing in the back of my mind, and being there really inspired me. So I've come back with pages worth of notes and people I can contact with more questions later. I do have at least 3 more books to finish before I officially start this one though, so don't get too excited. 30 hours and 4 plane rides later, I touched down in Melbourne and dived straight into the Romance Writers of Australia's annual conference. I presented a workshop on podcasting and the pros and cons of doing it. Then I was on a panel chatting about alternate streams of income, which was really interesting. Then I got back, recovered from my jet lag, and have spent the last 2 weeks in the recording studio with my audiobook narrator, Miles Pollard, recording the next 2 audiobooks in the Brigadier Station series. I'm now editing the audio files for those 2 books, The Sky Over Brigadier Station and The Legacies of Brigadier Station, so they should be out in about a month or so. Meanwhile, I just put up the pre-order for Christmas at Brigadier Station, which will release on November 27th as a print and ebook. You can pre-order that online now. Also out an ebook on September 1st is my latest multi-author boxed set from Serenade Publishing. This time I've teamed up with fellow Aussies Lisa Bow, S.M. Spencer and Suzanne Cass. The digital-only box set is available on all the platforms including Apple Books, Google Play, Kobo, Amazon or one of the other awesome platforms. It's only 99 cents and will be available for a limited time. If you love Australian rural romance, then you will love these full-length rural stories. My best-selling novel, The Sky Over Brigadier Station, is included in the set. I have 1 spot left on my Noosa Writers Retreat, which is being held on the beach from the 18th to the 21st of October. You can stay the whole weekend or visit for a day if you like. All the info is on my website. In September, Miles Pollard and I are doing some book signings and workshops around Brisbane and the Gold Coast. The details for those are also on my website and spots are filling up really quick, so get in now. Shout out to Jodie Gibson, who has just become a gold patron supporter of the show. Jodie is the debut author of The Memories We Hide. Dealing with complexities of friendships, love, depression and the consequences of secrets and split-second decisions, The Memories We Hide is a compelling story exploring how memories can't always be trusted, but how they can set you free. It's available everywhere now. And if you are an author who would like to be a sponsor or get a shout out on the show, send an email to me, sarah@serenadepublishing.com, or become a patron at patreon.com/Sarah Williams Author for more information. Right, it's time for the interview. Today I'm talking all things Regency and Scottish historical with the very busy Amy Rose Bennett. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you next week. G'day and welcome to Write with Love. Today on the show I'm chatting to Amy Rose Bennett. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. I've wanted you on the show for a long time and I finally managed to nail you down. So I would love if you could tell us about yourself and your journey to publication so far.
All right. Well, I might just start off with the basics. I've been happily married for 26 years and I have my husband. I have 2 daughters who are all grown up and have left home. So now I'm an empty nester as of a couple of weeks ago. What else about me before I talk about writing? I love to cook. I love to travel. I love to read and obviously write books.
So tell us about when you first started writing and how you became a published author.
All right. Well, I write historical romance, and that's always been a passion of mine since I was very young. I read Jane Eyre when I was in primary school, and I don't think I understood half of it, but you know, from that point on, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. But it took me quite a few years to actually to knuckle down and actually, put nose to the grindstone, actually get my first book written. So yeah, I was a speech pathologist for 20 odd years and had my family. And then in 2012, I decided, right, I started a book about 8 years before that. I'd written a couple of chapters and I thought, I'm just going to write this book. So I took 6 months off being a speech pathologist and wrote the first book. And I got to the end of that, it was November 2012. And I just went, what do I do next? Like, I have no idea about publishing. I don't know who to submit it to. So I joined Romance Writers Australia. And I think there was about a week left to go to enter the Emerald Award for unpublished manuscripts. So I joined, I entered, and the following year it came second. So that book was called, at the time, Capturing the Master of Strathburn. So it's a Scottish Jacobite rebellion romance, a bit like Outlander. Well, there's no time travel, but it's the same period of history. And I've just been working on my writing and my craft ever since. That book first sort of went through the rounds of me submitting, pitching over the next few years, got rejected a bunch of times, but I wouldn't give up. In the meantime, I also started writing some other books. And in 2014, my first Regency romance called Lady Beecham's Proposal, it got picked up by a small press. So that's when I first became officially published. And then Master of Strathburn eventually got picked up by Escape Publishing in 2015 and came out in 2016. So yeah, I write Regency and Scottish historicals, and I'm a hybrid published author. So I've got some indie published titles and I'm traditionally published as well.
Yeah. So what was it that pulled you into writing historicals and not like contemporary? Or I'm always interested in this. It's fascinating to me.
I don't know. I just, as I mentioned, since childhood, I've always loved stories set in the past. So I studied history at high school, and I just, for me, that's my fantasy world. Yeah. It's not like the everyday, and I particularly love the Regency era because of all of the the fashions. Like, I love the clothes that the women wear, you know, the men in their sexy breeches. I love that there was there was the Napoleonic Wars were happening. There was a lot of social change, and it was also a period where people started to be able to marry for love, not just the nobility. Prior to that, it was very much about marrying for improving your family's lot in life. So marrying for position and for money. And I mean, that was still important then, but you could actually marry for love as well. So that intrigues me.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. So, we were talking about how you're traditionally and indie self-published, and you've got about 4 series on the go at the moment. So that must keep you pretty busy.
Oh yes, it does. And I feel a little bit guilty for some of my my readers who have been waiting for the next book to come out in one particular series. Because I'm sort of divided. I had them sort of coming out in dribs and drabs at the moment, but that's going to be rectified soon. But I've got my Scandalous Regency Widow series, which is self-published. I've got Lady Beecham's Proposal and The Ice Duchess. They've been out for a few years now, but I'm working on the 3rd book, so that will be coming out next year. I've got some self-published erotic Regency novellas. If you like books on the spicier side, there's an Improper Proposition and Improper Governess, and they're hard to say, and Improper. And then, I've got my traditionally published books. So I've got 2 titles with Escape Publishing, which are The Master of Strathburn, and in 2018, I had The Laird of Blacklock come out. And then I've also got a 3-book series coming out with Berkeley Romance. Actually, the first book's come out. It's called How to Catch a Wicked Viscount. And it's a Regency series.
Yeah, lovely. Can you tell us a little bit more about that so we can get all keen to go out and buy it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this series is the first book in a series that's called The Disreputable Debutante. So it's about a group of young women who at the beginning of the book, the first book, they're attending a young ladies' academy, and they decide to have, I guess it's a modern day equivalent of a dorm party. So they are drinking some brandy and smoking some cigarillos and looking at, I can't think of another word for it, lewd pictures and books, because one of the friends decides that they need to know what men really like and what men really want. And that, they shouldn't be naive when they're going into the marriage mark. They need to know what, Ray Kells and men of the time are probably, looking for. So, they get sprung and then they get expelled. So they've got these ruined reputations. So they have to think of other ways about how they're going to find their love matches, because they won't be invited to balls anymore. And so basically the series follows the journeys of each of my heroines. And in the first book, the heroine's name is Miss Sophie Brightwell, and she's a quite a shy young woman. Her family is in a bit of financial straits, and there's a lot of pressure from her family to make a good marriage, so they don't lose their family property. And her stepfather's pressuring her to marry a neighbour that he owes a debt to. So it's really important for her to get out of that situation. And complicating that is she's got a huge crush on her best friend's older brother. So he's the wicked Viscount. So he's the hero of the story. And so the book focuses on Sophie and Nate, her friend's older brother, and how they find their happily ever after.
Oh, it sounds awesome. I can't wait to read it. It's recently released. So it's everywhere in paperback and ebook.
Yes, and it's also going to be, or is out in audio. So that's really exciting. So
yes,
I'm thrilled about that. It's my first book in audio.
Oh, congratulations. I'm huge into audio, so yay. Now, you have written these Scottish historicals as well, and I've recently come back from Scotland, and I'm about to write my very first historical romance. And this is basically the first time I'm admitting to this on this podcast. So, and for me, it's because I'm a huge Outlander fan, and we spent most of our time going to locations where Outlander was filmed, trying to find Jamie. Didn't find him. But
I'm very envious.
I would love to talk to you about doing the research and stuff. Like, I was there, and my family is from Scotland, and I did visit my family's castle, Blairethel Castle, which was stunning. But I'm still very early days in writing this historical romance. So tell me about your process and your research. Like, did you have to do a whole bunch in the beginning, and now you kind of know so much that you're not having to do as much research?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I've been reading about history and historical romance for years and years. I mean, that's my go-to genre. I do read a little bit of contemporary and crime suspense fiction, but most of what I read is historical romance. So, I've absorbed a lot of the history and I guess, for want of a better word, culture of the times of the periods I write in. But that's not to say I'm not learning new things all the time. Like, whenever I sit down to write a book, and I'm very much a plotter. If there's, say, an issue with an inheritance, if there's with my Scottish historicals, I had to know a fair bit about the Jacobite rebellion and the Battle of Culloden, and I'll read up on those particular topics. There's also a lot that I make sure I'm correct with the language that I use. So historical romance fans are very savvy about how people spoke back then. So I'm always looking at the dictionary and resources like the online etymology dictionary, gosh, that's hard to say, to check that the phrases and the words that I'm using were actually used at the time and are not anachronistic. You don't want your language to sound too modern, and that's something that I'm always doing. Researching the fashions of the time, the social mores. Titles can be quite tricky. So titles of the nobility, because I write about the aristocracy. There are so many things that you do need to kind of check. Like, even now, I double check that I've got the titles right in my books. But I love doing it. So
Are there some websites are there some particular websites that you've found are actually accurate and are good places for people to go to when they want to write historicals?
Gosh, a lot of really savvy authors that I admire do blogs about blog posts about particular topics. It's probably hard for me to think of a particular like a non-fiction title that I can recommend off the top of my head, but I network with a lot of authors as well. So if there's something that I'm particularly stuck on or I need to find a primary source, I'll we ask each other questions like, can you recommend a particular resource? So it's also very much a case of sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So it is good to read as widely as you can, like non-fiction and fiction sources as well.
Yeah. Because I'm just at the very early stages where
I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah, no, it's very early, and I've got this seed of an idea, and it's like, oh my God, but how did they dress? How did they go to the bathroom? And when I was at Romance Writers in New York, at the American conference a few weeks ago, and they were doing costumes, and they were putting on the
Yes.
bustles and all these sorts of things. And I was like, oh my God, this is so over my head. So,
Well, these days, you can even find like tutorials about how women dressed in, 18th century clothes, and you can see, women showing you how they put on the all the petticoats and the stays and all of the padding sort of underneath the skirts, and all of that. So, yeah, I remember when I first started out. These days it's much easier to find out. All those details that are really important.
Yeah. Well, I'd love if you could tell us more about your book, The Lead of Blacklock, because like you were saying, that is set just after Culloden, and I went to Culloden. I had family who fought in Culloden on both sides too, which is funny. Tell us more about that book and the storyline for it, because it looks awesome. I can't wait to start reading it.
Oh, thank you. Yes, The Land of Blacklock is it's a story about the hero's name's Alex, and he fought for Bonnie Prince Charlie, so on the losing side. So his family wanted a Stuart king on the throne. So if you're an Outlander fan, you'll probably get all that background, but I won't bore you too much. But basically, his family picks the losing side, and there's a rival clan who have lands that adjoin his, who are on the winning side, so the Hanoverian side. And these clans have been sort of at loggerheads for centuries, and they're part of the Campbell clan, the rival clan, and so they take advantage of the situation, and basically when Alex is arriving home after the battle to make sure his family is okay, the rival clan is decimating his castle, and his family suffers, and he basically loses everything. So at the beginning of the book, we have poor Alex, who's been wounded, he's lost everything, and he's basically on the run from the British, and he vows to take vengeance against Malcolm.
Yeah.
He's the Earl of Tay. So then 10 years down the track, Alex has chosen an alias, and he's made a lot of money, and he uses his money to set about ruining Malcolm Campbell, the Earl of Tay. And one of the things he's found out is Malcolm is in dire straits financially, but the rest of society doesn't know. And Malcolm's plan to fix his situation is to marry a rich heiress called Sarah Lambert, who's the heroine. And what Alex plans to do is, it's quite a dark book at the beginning. Alex plans to kidnap Sarah so Malcolm can't marry her and come into this windfall of money. So that's basically the setup for the book. I've taken a long time to explain it, but so Alex takes Sarah, and then
So what are you working on now?
Okay, at the moment, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm halfway through writing A Most Unsuitable Countess, which is the third book in my self-published Scandalous Regency Widow series. And I hope that will be out middle of next year. I'm also writing a pirate novella for a box set that's coming out in January. That's going to be called The Lady and the Privateer. That's set in the Regency era. So I've never written a pirate story before, so that's a bit of fun, doing all the research for that. And then in April next year, the second book in my Berkeley Disreputable Debutante series is called How to Catch an Errant Earl. It's coming out so on the 28th of April, I think. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I've just seen a draft cover for that, and it's gorgeous. So I'm very excited about that too.
Brilliant. Well, where can we find you online and have a look at your cover reveals and all the other books that you've got out?
Yeah, well, I've got my website, which is amyrosebennett.com. So you can find all of my books there, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Goodreads, and I have an Amazon author page, so all the usual places you find authors hanging out, I'm there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully we haven't had too many technical problems along the way. But yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Jump onto my website, sarahwilliamsauthor.com, and join my mailing list to receive a free preview of my books and lots of other inspiration. If you like the show and want it to continue, you can become a sponsor for just a couple of dollars a month. Go to patreon.com/sarahwilliamsauthor. And remember to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a review of the podcast. I'll be back next week with another loved up episode. Bye!